So welcome to the Freedom Specialist podcast. My name is Alex Spicer. I'm excited to get started on doing my podcast regularly with a Facebook Live. But to be honest, this is just going to be a fun experience for me and for you watching. I'm still putting together all the equipment, but I figured something is better than nothing. So you'll have to excuse my adaptations to make all this work. I'm sure you'll like it, and I know I will. I just hope I can get through it without a lot of technical or problems. But over the weekend, I posted on my website, alexspicer.com, a short article about what I think the top 10 issues today are that America needs to solve, or we are in big trouble. And I asked you, the audience, to share some ideas and suggestions about how you think we can tackle these issues. I was actually going to focus a lot of this time together on the issues on that list, but somehow that something has happened which is far more pressing, and that is on Monday at the Manchester Arena in London, a radical Muslim terrorist murdered 22 people and injured more than 50 others by using a suicide bomb full of homemade shrapnel. As the news and moguls in the media fly into action and produce false or skewed narratives on what happened and what it means, I think really we should just step back and think for a moment and ask ourselves, is this the sort of world we want to live in? And more importantly, how can we prevent this from ever happening to us? I don't think we really want to live in such a world full of hate and evil, but the fact is we do live in a world with lots of hate and many great evils. Those people do not go away by ignoring them and pretending that they don't exist. Evil has always been around and always will. The problem today is that evil is granted more and more power through political correctness. So, as we try to solve the problems associated with this great evil known as radical Islamic terrorism, problems associated with it such as border security, national security and surveillance, immigration, entitlement culture, suppression of First Amendment rights, or whatever, let's not get sidetracked from the actual source of our problems. What is the actual reason our world, particularly the Western world, is so much less safe today? The answer isn't radical Muslim terrorism. The answer is simply we the people have become lost. We have removed ourselves from moral principles that enable us to be free and safe. All of us, left, right, and center, have become tolerating of the most dangerous threat posed to against the modern world, which is political correctness. Political correctness is why our government, with all of its power, still seems unable or unwilling to act to prevent terrorism and potential radical threats, especially when they come from Muslims. In fact, political correctness has been hard at work distorting truth and facts when it comes to Islamists. So because of all the distortion of facts, we need to just get two out of the way before we can really make any progress in understanding the threat that political correctness poses. So first fact to embrace is that there's no such thing as lone wolves when it comes to radical Islamic terrorism. All the terrorist attacks in our day are commonly perpetrated by Islamic extremists. Not all of them, but most of them are by Islamic extremists. The term lone wolf came up as a way to downplay the spreading threat of Islamic terrorism, and it's been used repeatedly to discredit the infection of radicalization of the people. In fact, the term lone wolf was used by CNBC to describe the Manchester suicide bomber. But the truth is, the lone wolf excuse is a blatant lie, which only helps terrorists feel emboldened as the people are unable to identify the problem. It's a lie because it disregards the most important connection between all radical Muslim terrorists, their religious culture and teachings. That's their connection. So it's a lie the lone wolf is a lie that suggests that actions of one person or a few cannot be related unless we can find a direct word of command by the higher ups of an identified terrorist group. It purposely ignores the fact that the ideology and culture these terrorists share is what is actually teaching them to terrorize. So if they're all connected to the same corrupting force, which in their case is their religious culture, then none of them are lone wolves. They're actually all part of the same pack. So second fact to accept is that the majority of terror attacks are from one group, which means we can readily identify the problem. The problem is, as I already said, the problem is a religious culture problem. So still, none of these facts help us unless we, America, untie our hands from political correctness. Political correctness is the actual problem America must solve to prevent evil terrorizing culture of radical Islam and ultimately more terror attacks. So let's quickly tackle the culture problem and how political correctness enables it. So there is a growing problem of radical Muslim immigrants in the US and in Europe. Europe is actually far more politically correct and socialistic in their political tendencies, which has created some impassable problems for them, as they have allowed and actually enabled mass immigration of radical Muslims into their country. So in fact, according to a 2016 Pew research study on the population level of Muslims in Europe, it said that approximately 6% of Germany's population and 8% of France's population was Muslim, and that the numbers are steadily growing. But that's not really the problem. The problem is that many of Europe's laws and politicians are so welcoming to immigrants, giving them a lot of handouts as well as protection by the power of political correctness in both law enforcement and by manipulating the people to ignore the problem or blame it on a scapegoat. For example, in Sweden, where rape cases have skyrocketed due to the influx of radical Muslim immigrants, police can do nothing about it. And in fact, many people in Sweden say that it's not a problem with radical Muslim immigrants, but a problem with male culture. So really, political correctness is often the greatest barrier between the people and safety, between the people and justice, between the people and lawfulness, between us and liberty. Political correctness is done in the name of protecting the weak, but somehow it tends to ignore the guilt of those it tries to protect and ignores the innocence of those harmed. For example, the Zwemmer Center for Islamic Studies relates an article. It says, quote, in 2008, a Moroccan man and his 17-year-old wife immigrated to America. Not long after, she filed a restraining order against him, claiming her husband was raping her. The husband did not deny their sexual relations were non-consensual, but said that in his religion, the wife was supposed to submit and do all that he desired of her. The New Jersey judge found that given his understanding of Islam, he did not intend to commit a crime, and therefore was innocent. The restraining order was denied. Cases like this, continuing on, cases like this set off alarm bells that Sharia law is coming to America, and in fact is already here. Called creeping Sharia, this case is given as just one further example of our nation forsaking its heritage in an effort to be politically correct and yield to the pressures of local Muslims to live by their own laws and not our own. Politically correct culture suggests that foreigners who come to America should be given a lot of leeway to enjoy the culture and traditions that they're bringing over. However, political correctness hides the fact that there are many aspects, for example, radical Muslim culture, that are both unlawful, unconstitutional, and violating of the rights that America holds sacred. It's just as the Zwemmer Center for Islamic Studies said, we are, quote, forsaking our heritage in an effort to be politically correct, end quote. So where cultures clash for newcomers to the United States, the American culture actually must supersede all other cultures and behaviors that they bring with them. The only leeway any culture should receive is the leeway granted to all of its citizens and visitors under constitutional and state law. So this goes for all immigrants and cultures. The very foundation of America, our culture and our laws, are not the same as any other culture. Our founding culture and conceptions of rights, laws, and government is primarily based in Christianity. To enjoy the laws and rights we value in America, we must perpetuate moral American culture and laws and eliminate politically correct culture. Without the unique culture and values of America, our entire system crumbles. Political correctness is also extremely dangerous because it promotes moral relativism. It tries to make irrelevant anything inherently good or moral about our country and give privilege and power to new, unique, and the incompatible. As much as radical Islam is incompatible with our culture, we wouldn't have to fight it within our own borders as much if it weren't for political correctness allowing it to enter in among us and to grow in strength. Truly, political correctness is incompatible with peace, liberty, and justice. The Journal of Experimental Social Psychology put it best when it said in a study called, quote, exposure to moral relativism compromises moral behavior. They said in that study, quote, the inherent subjectivity of moral relativism may imply that people can have no basis for making moral judgments against those with whom they disagree, as relativism provides no objective criteria for determining who is right. For example, whereas human rights advocates have argued that female genital mutilation harms women's bodies and is therefore intrinsically morally wrong Defenders of the practice have argued that moral judgments must be made relative to the social groups in which practices take place, and therefore we must tolerate female genital mutilation because it carries important meaning for the people who practice it. End quote. So if you want safety, if you want to prevent more terrorism and prevent and a million other problems we face, erase political correctness from our politics and our culture. If we eliminate political correctness, we can act rationally and stop the wrong people from coming in. We will be able to effectively deal with evil already in our land and prevent more evil from happening. That's really all I have to share for today. Everything else I was preparing actually just seemed so irrelevant after the shock across the nation of seeing our friends in Britain endure such a tragedy. So we have to stop political correctness if we want to stop the power of evil in our own society. Simply put, evil is always out there. But the evil we tolerate within us, within among us, will be the one that destroys us. I think that's why Abraham Lincoln actually said very wisely, if destruction be our lot, we must ourselves be its author and finisher. As a nation of freemen, we must live through all time or die by suicide. Now, as I close, I just want to thank my sponsor today for making this podcast possible. My sponsor today is Glowing Rings. Glowing Rings has not only made it possible for me to be here doing this here today, but they have graciously offered for me to hand out, give a couple of free rings to audience members. If you want to enjoy a ring that is modern, fits your personality, and allows you to enjoy its beauty both day and night, then get a glowing ring. Glowing Rings offers rings that are different, have different designs that come in titanium and carbon fiber. Just go to glowingrings.com to make a purchase. Now, if you want to try and win a free ring like this video and share it with 5 of your friends by commenting below. Just tag 5 of your friends in your comment, and you'll be put into a drawing to win a free glowing ring of your choosing. Again, if you want to win a ring, like this video and tag 5 of your friends in the comments below to share it with them. Or just, if you want to buy one, go to glowingrings.com.